ahead. This is the special voting meeting for September 11th. We've already held our Pledge of Allegiance prior to this meeting for the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Oakless O'Neill, can you please perform a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Wolf. Mrs. White.
Here.
Mr. Curtis. Mr. Martino.
Here.
Mr. Oakless O'Neill here. Mr. Potts.
Here.
Mr. Radcliffe.
Here.
Mr. Scott.
Here.
Ms. Trolowski.
Here.
Mr. Wolf.
Here. Under announcements, there is one agenda edit. I've been informed that Coach Parks has tendered his resignation. So we'll be adding that to personnel, where would be appropriate for professional, extracurricular, I suppose. B?
Personnel.
Personnel 8B, 1B?
8D, isn't it? No. 8D, 8A, 1B. Well, he's extracurricular, 8B.
Yeah, okay.
8B.
So that motion will be 8B, 1B. Okay, the procedures for public participation are printed inside of your program as they were before. You should already have signed in. If you want to, after this meeting, if you would like to address the board, please approach the podium, sign in, state your name and address for the record, and you'll be afforded 3 minutes to address the board. Are there any presentations by the public on agenda items? Seeing none, we'll take them in order. Do I have a motion for 7A? Motion to approve adding an additional fourth grade section at Amity Elementary Center due to increased enrollment, bringing the number of fourth grade sections from 10 to 11.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Rathgeb, second by Mr. Scott. Discussion?
Based on previous conversations, I assume that most board members have already made up their mind on this, but I'm going to express my thoughts anyway. I oppose creating an additional fourth grade class and hiring an additional teacher for the following reasons. The limit of 26 students per class is a guideline. It's not an unbreakable rule. Under current enrollment, the worst case scenario is there would be one additional student in 3 classes. 27 kids in a class instead of 26 should not ruin anyone's education, nor should it be too much for a professional teacher to handle alone without an additional aide. The cost of an additional teacher, including salary and benefits to accommodate 3 students, is nearly $100,000. $100,000 expense in a budget that's already maxed, and in a year where the state may reduce our revenue, is absolutely unconscionable. Additionally, our enrollment historically declines through the year, which could negate the 3 additional students. And our attendance rate is such that we would seldom have full classes on a daily basis. AEC has already hosted their Meet the Teacher nights, and more than 20 sets of parents would have met the wrong teacher. And since we're not going to have a class of 3 students, we'd have to pull approximately 2 students from every other 4th grade class, meaning we would disrupt 28-year-old children who've already spent 2 weeks with their teachers in order to accommodate 3 students. So again, I oppose it.
Any other board comment?
So just so I understand what the numbers are, is that so I keep saying that it's 26 across the board, that's not the case.
What the board sees from Kathy is the monthly. What I send out is the daily. So the daily, what you're looking at is the end of August 31st, where there were 26. From that time to now, we've had 3 new enrollees. 4. So we're getting about one a day. Well, we got 3 the other day, 1 today. So that would be 4 classes over 26. We looked at merging 3rd grade, but that would just shift the problem from 4th grade to 3rd grade. So what we're looking at doing is taking a class that's available and adding a long-term sub to this class and moving a teacher who's currently out on maternity leave to that class. So you'll see further down in the agenda, we're calling back a teacher. That's per contract that we have to do that because we have someone furloughed. However, that teacher would remain in that class at Amity where she is. We would move the teacher that she's currently replacing on maternity leave to this 4th grade class. And when and if this teacher returns, this teacher would be the teacher of record. However, going forward, if the board approves, we would have a long-term sub in that class to be that was our least disruptive model. The class is, and Dane could talk more where the class is, but it is not in a non-classroom type setting. I know there was some conversation about where the class, it's a classroom.
Just to address the concern too, we had 18 students move in after classes were selected. So those 18 students, there were no issues as far as which teacher they were looking for. Were there any issues as far as chemistry between students? These are 18 students who were new to our district. So those 18 would be moved into the new section as it is, if the board approves it.
What's the benefit of a long-term sub?
Well, the long-term sub is not a permanent employee. We have a teacher currently
On maternity leave.
on maternity leave. So this teacher who's on maternity leave would be the teacher of record for this class once she returns, if she decides to return.
So you're adding a teacher.
We're bringing back, yes, we are.
We're calling back the final teacher on the callback list.
The one that we furloughed at the end of this year.
But it'll be an additional teacher to what we have right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I guess the rationale for as you said, the friendships, et cetera, the one class is only 18 kids, which seems like a...
Oh, no, there'll be more than that. I'm just saying those are 18 right off the bat.
Okay, so it's not getting past 18.
Be 24.
Plus 6 others.
Okay, all right, so I got it.
So what exactly would the cost of this be then? The salary of the teacher being recalled plus benefits, roughly?
Well,
Because it's not going to be a new
Well,
hire, right? She has
it's
to come back
not a
and
new hire, but she's one of the least senior people, so I'd have to look at where she is on the pay scale, but it would be low on the pay scale. It's not one of our higher 20-year teachers. It's one of the newest. That's why she was furloughed. So I would say roughly about 70,000.
salary.
No.
Salary and benefits?
And benefits, close.
Last year, my position on this is I support it. Last year, as we had classes over our guidelines, I said I was against it, and I'm against it. What we tried to do to mitigate the circumstance was add part-time aides. As you probably realized, part-time aides are not vested in staying necessarily a whole school year. So I don't know how many times we replaced one of these part-time aides that we assigned to class. To me, in my opinion, there was no continuity there because people kept leaving. So how can you teach the kids if they're not leaving? And if we were to add full-time class aides, which was an idea thrown out, that combined cost of those 3 people would be more than the teacher. So plus the class sizes would still be much higher. So this was the recommendation that the administration brought to me. I support it. That's why I put it on the agenda.
Does the administration have any compensating cost savings that they can use at this point to kind of sell this? In the past, when presented with new positions, we hear, well, but we're saving money every year, so I think we could justify this, and I'm not saying that was your superintendent style, but in the past we have. So is there anything on your chalkboard there where you can see any cost savings potentials this year? that can
We
help?
have operational cost savings, but there's nothing to cut to bring this position
Nothing jumping
in.
out at you.
No. I mean, there's been things suggested, like other revenue-driving things, but this is for academics. This is classroom, this is trying to get the average classroom size from 26 to 24. So,
I understand.
it's,
I know what you're saying.
Now, one question that always, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Has there been any changes to the third grade class?
The third grade is, we just added another student there. We're at 240. Third grade.
And since school started until now, has there been any noticeable changes? Have we had any influx of kids like we did in fourth grade?
At third grade?
Yeah.
Fourth grade's been the highest, but we've been across the board as far as students being added.
Okay. Do
We've
you have
added a
any idea
couple
how many
second-
added in third grade, like ballpark, not the whole thing?
Yeah,
I would
second,
say probably 5 or 6.
Fire handful?
Whereas fourth grade was
Yeah.
3 times that.
you know, second and third grade, they're sitting down at the bottom end of the guidelines, so they can absorb cutting a couple kids, but
and,
fourth
and
grade. Now, Mr. Miller, the question I wanted to ask, and it always seems to come up in social media, is that this classroom, that this section will be added, it's a full-size classroom,
It
appropriate?
has a bathroom, it's a full-size classroom with bathroom.
Okay, now, are we displacing any other program that was in that space?
We are moving life skills back to where they were for the past 3 years.
Where they were in the past 3 years, is that an appropriate
Yes.
location?
That's at the LGI right across from the library.
The LGI, but that's what is that, like a meeting room or
no, life skills.
Large room, very large room.
Yeah.
large room?
It's a double
Okay.
room.
So is this the room that you converted at the end of the hallway there last year, the very last room for mitigating? Crisis,
No, that was
behavioral
built. It's right across from the library. The bathrooms are right next to it.
It's a
What
double
was in
room.
the LGS, was that additional music that we were doing there?
Yeah, we actually created that as a music lesson space this year. So, as Mr. Harris pointed out, this is academics and it takes priority. We need to make sure that both the life skills class and the 11th, 4th grade classroom, the facilities that are going to further learning that. Like, as I said, life skills has been in that space for the
Yeah.
past 3 years.
Any other board discussion?
I mean, I'm going to vote yes, but I feel like Groundhog's Day, where if you look at the third grade, we could have had one of those teaching spots moved to the fourth grade before school even started, and they could have had 15 more kids joining since the first day of class, and they would have still been under the total number recommended by our guidelines, which is exactly what happened last year, except that the overage was in a different school, but now they're all in AC, so now the overage it's the second grade of last year, which is now the third grade of this year. And so, again, I feel like this all could have been addressed. We wouldn't have to have this conversation, but here we are. And now the question becomes, do you want to endure the expense? Or do you want to say no and force the hand of disrupting, third grade kids in addition to the fourth grade kids that are going to get disrupted? So I would like to say that it's disappointing. It's really not that difficult, in my opinion, to avoid this situation.
I'd like to ask the administrative personnel, particularly, and I'm assuming that you were involved in these discussions, Melanie, those of you who have also been elementary principals, I don't know if you were involved in the discussion, but I am in a situation where I'm having a hard time well, I don't have the expertise to answer this question, that's why I'm throwing it your way. Are you guys in agreement that the benefits of having only 24 kids in the class relative to 27 is worth the disruption? The financial implications are not a big deal to me. I'm actually much more concerned with, is the situation untenable enough that it's worth taking 24 kids who are already in a class, putting them in a room with another teacher, and handling it that way? That's what and like I said, I'm not an education expert. I could guess, but I'd be guessing. I'm just like, not that I distrust what Dan said or what Jim said, I'm just looking for additional feedback to try and either validate that, or whether you think, or it's possible that you might think that keeping it status quo is actually better. I'm just trying to figure that out.
And it might be more than just the numbers, because, from what I've heard, there are more kids with IEPs, so, so if you had lower IPs, maybe you could have a higher class size, but the more people you put in, more students you put in with IEPs, that's just puts more of a strain on, at least I would think so, on the teacher.
We looked initially at, and Mr. Harris alluded to this earlier, at moving a third grade to fourth grade. We would be maxing third grade out immediately, which is where we're at. We're at 240. If we went and took a teacher from third grade, moved them to fourth grade, we're at 240. Class size maximum is 24 per class. Divide by 10, you've got 24. You're already maxed. We have students still moving in. We have an appointment tomorrow to add a third grader. We would automatically be over class size, right then and there. I wouldn't ask if I didn't feel it was important academically to keep these class sizes below the board-established guideline. I view that as a policy that we're supposed to follow. I don't view it as a suggestion. I think it's a policy that we are to follow.
And I hear what you're saying. Do you understand the distinction I'm trying to make?
Sure.
I'm not disputing that. I believe that as a general rule, the kids will be better served by having fewer kids in the classroom. There is a point at which, and maybe if this were May, right, we'd say let's not bother, the disruption wouldn't be worth, the benefit wouldn't be worth the disruption. I'm just trying to evaluate the two things. I'm not advocating moving a third grade teacher. It's not clear to me that A, anyone should have known that, or B, that that's the appropriate situation now. I'm simply trying to determine whether there is consensus that this is, and like I said, not just from you, right, that there's consensus that this is the situation that's best for the students. And I don't know how big a deal the disruption is relative to having one extra kid in a given class, so that's what I'm trying to evaluate, that's all.
24 as opposed to 26 and 27.
Would there be benefit in kicking the can down the road another 2 weeks on this? Would the answer become most apparent?
Well, my question was initially, the longer the kids are in with that class, with that teacher, the more bonding goes on. So far, they've had, eight school days. So, if you're going to make the change, I think, in my opinion, it would be better to make it earlier, especially if we have these move-ins. I had jokingly sent an email to Mr. Miller to prepare himself for some of the questions, and I said, how can you make these 23 kids feel, hey, I'm special because I got put into this class, whether it's ice cream or, like I said, tape them to the wall. I don't know what it's going to be. Just to try to mitigate, what Mr. Okozanil is saying is a disruption there.
And I guess if we make the wrong decision tonight, it could be brought back to us in 2 weeks then. So it's a value of making the right decision. We'll see what happens in a couple of weeks.
We can only go by the data that we have in front of us at the time.
Right.
On the 18th, I was reading how we got here on the 18th of August. We had all the sections were within guidelines. So a week before school, we had, in the week of school, and I think, last week, whatever, we had all these move-ins. If it would have been in second grade or third grade, it would have been fine. But unfortunately, they were more like concentrated in fourth grade.
Historically speaking, we're down like 50 kids a year, so I'm just saying, that starts to kick in the attrition, is that going to offset what appears to be, just a momentary glut in the enrollment?
Well,
And if they're only happening first to eighth grade, to validate what Mr. Preston, Mr. McKnight told us earlier, that enrollment at the high school it is just the 1 to 8.
Well, that's,
First to eighth grades and about 50 kids a year. It's like
Can I
six
just make
kids.
one comment? The only reason Mr. McKnight hasn't seen a reduction is that the smaller classes haven't gotten to him yet. It's coming. It just hasn't happened yet.
What I'm saying.
I'm not disputing what you're saying, Preston. I'm simply saying, if you look at
this one out.
if you look at the class sizes all the way down.
I hear you.
So it just hasn't gotten it yet.
But I also see the newer, like second grade's way below the average. The next groups coming through are historically smaller. So you're right, I mean, there's a glut
It
coming
just hasn't
in.
gotten there yet.
But statistically, this is the numbers. We're losing 50 kids a year on average the last whatever years. And it's only been applied to across 8 grades. Then third, fourth grade, they should all lose 6 kids this year, right? 8 times 6 is 48, an average of 6 kids per class.
okay, earlier,
So are we going to end up right where we started?
during the planning period, back in February, March, April, we had 11 sections. But when we looked at it, we were on the low side of classroom size. So we agreed to remove one section and go medium to high for budgetary reasons. And so we had almost 11 sections, almost in every grade. That's why there's one more section in third grade than fourth. But we decided to go medium to high. And it's a gamble because we said with the number of sections, we could absorb X number of students. But we've gotten double that number into that one section. And the decrease district-wide of about 50 students is spread out district-wide, not per grade. So you don't see it at
Oh, yeah, I'm not arguing that.
yeah,
I'm saying it's average, it's
Right.
about 6 kids a
right, but
class,
right,
grade.
but-
Because it's
but-
not hurt in the high school. High school's been average, been maintained.
They do. If you drill down on it, there are ebbs and flows in that also. But once again, 240, 250, 245, 250. I mean, if you look bigger picture, that's flat. But if you look micro, like we are right now in Amity, that's a difference of a section. So we originally were at 11 sections, but then during budgetary season, we took it down and agreed to go higher with the additional sections. We could absorb X number of students coming in. We've gotten 18. So we could have probably taken 12, 13 easy.
And then the net effect of this decision comes out of where we end up on the reserve, Mr. Small? Like, where does this money come from now? We're just going to end up with a smaller budget balance at the end of the year and reserve?
And once again, this would not be brought before the board if I didn't feel that there was an interest in keeping class size to a certain level. Over the summer to the first week of school, I was asked daily to provide what's the enrollment information. So it was my belief that there is a high interest in not having 27, 28 students in a class. And academically, I don't think there's much of a difference between 26 and 27, depending on the student's needs. But once we get higher than that, and we saw last year that we did not have the academic output or success that we wanted by bringing aides in. We need full-time qualified teachers and a manageable class size of 24 to 26. And once again, I would not have brought this forward if I didn't have board members saying, hey, what are the numbers? I mean, daily, what are the numbers? And we were monitoring this daily because we didn't want to have happen drag this out to October where classroom norms and routines are established and then have to disrupt that. And we found that the easiest way to do this was bring it forward now and then bring in a long-term sub, not move a current teacher, and then bring back the teacher who's currently on leave.
any other board discussion? Mr. Okus and Neal, roll call, please. I mean, not roll call. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Pike.
No.
Mr. Curtis, who is not here. Mr. Martino.
No.
Mr. Oksoniel, yes. Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Rathgab?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Tarbowski?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-2.
Okay, the next one is actually much easier to talk about than the last one. The acknowledgement of the Daniel Boone Area School District support of the Pennsylvania Go Gold Initiative, Aiden's Avengers, and all the children and families affected by the childhood cancer. The month of September shall hereby be recognized by the Daniel Boone Area School District as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, as stated in the resolution which I'm about to read. Whereas cancer is the leading cause of death by disease among U.S. children, it is detected in more than 262,000 of our sons and daughters worldwide every year. And whereas September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, at a time to honor, remember the children whose young lives were taken too soon and the families facing childhood cancer today, to help rally support to give children in cancer better outcomes. And whereas, thanks to ongoing advances in research and treatment, the 5-year survival rate for all childhood cancers has climbed from less than 50% to 80% over the last several decades, but does not come soon enough for many of our sons and daughters, and too many families suffer pain and devastating loss. And whereas 1 in 5 children diagnosed will not survive. And whereas innovative studies are leading to a real breakthrough, reminding us of the importance of supporting scientific discovery and moving closer to finding cures, but much more work remains to be done. And whereas during the National Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, we remember the many children who have been taken from us too soon, and we extend and support all those who continue to battle this illness with incredible strength and courage. Now, therefore, the Board of School Directors of the Daniel Boone Area School District resolves the following. In support of Pennsylvania Go Gold, Aiden's Avengers, and all children and families affected by childhood cancer, the month of September shall hereby be recognized in the Daniel Boone Area School District as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, in tribute to the families, friends, professionals, and communities who led their strength to the brave children fighting pediatric cancer across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The foregoing is certified true and correct copy of the resolution duly adopted by the Board of School Directors of the Daniel Boone Area School District on the day 25th of September, which we're actually doing it now. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any other board discussion?
No, I don't have anything. This is blanket.
Can I be this clear, Mr. Wolf? So are we, for the resolution, are we saying it is for every September going forward, or just for this year?
It's just this year.
It's 2017. We're doing it for this year.
Okay, so that's what to be fair, that
It's-
just for this year.
Right.
So may I suggest we alter the resolution, besides the date at the bottom, the 11th of September, it should say September 2017 on the second whereas.
Ms. Tarbowski, are you okay with that, James?
I think this is saying it's ongoing. The date is just when we're signing it, it's not.
That was my concern, and I think it's no parent should have to lose a child or anything. I couldn't personally imagine it myself having to handle that, and I saw cases of fine, representation on how we can support this cause. And I think some of the board members are aware. My only concern, and we've had this discussion on Relay for Life in the district. I think Boone is a very, our students, our faculty, everybody here, I think it shows we're a very caring, supportive community, and, with Relay, we go above and beyond.
I didn't say where do they want to change
A lot of people do here. you know, I think we can use these situations. I'd like to have a discussion of maybe our district at the high school level, having some kind of conversation every year about supporting a certain charity or organization. I mean, I know Acton personally, my son and daughter's classmates over the year, we've had suicide issues, we've had drug overdose issues. There's so many different things we can help support. I think we should focus on a different one each year and have the high school kind of vet that, maybe have the kids, maybe have the class representatives, you know, pick a charity each year or organization or cause and vet that cause and then have the kids vote on what they want to see happen. And can we do more than one? Yeah, but I think we kind of, you know, we have so many different things we're supporting. I think it kind of the shotgun approach as to where you saw the ice bucket challenge really had that a couple years ago had a huge focus, and I think got that ALS going where they actually made some progress in that area. So that's why I say I think this is great to support this year, but I want it to be going every year is my concern. So.
This is just an awareness campaign, though, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about here. It's not like we're asking the kids to fundraise. We're not there's no expectation from the school district to, you know, support fundraising. It's just
No, it's just,
a
you know,
blanket, like, you know, maybe we'll pick a day and everyone wears gold and we have, you know, I don't know. I think at least for me, I was thinking along the lines with Ms. Rathgeb, thinking that it was either one, like a memorial type of thing, or if it was a fundraiser type of thing, then I wouldn't want to keep it perpetuated versus, but I feel like, I mean, at least in my opinion, that, you know, it's an awareness thing that I would feel obliged to support it.
Okay, so the motion at this point, I mean, this resolution is modified, whereas September 2017. So, and it would read on from there.
Right here.
September 2017.
You're modifying the
Well,
resolution?
Actually, we can't change it there.
Wasn't modified.
We can't change it there.
The board doesn't want to modify it.
That's a reference to the national designation of the month.
Yeah, no, I just, you know, that was my concern, and I agree, it's an awareness campaign. To me, they kind of lose their luster after,
Yeah.
so, I mean, if we're going to focus on it, let's really focus on it and make it something that's, you know, worthy. It's like, it's, you know, everything has a month, a week, a day these days, and it kind of gets all lost in the mix at some point. So,
I agree with Mr. Scott.
You would modify it in second to the last paragraph where it says it's that day Maboon recognizes. So the month of September 2017 shall be recognized by Dave Maboon. I think if you were
We're
going to
voting on this
modify
as
it,
is.
do it yearly.
We're not mod-
It could be as amended by the solicitor.
Sorry.
I agree with Mr. Scott. I have no problem with this moving forward more than just this year. And if the new board wanted to cancel it or restructure it, that would be up to the new board. I have no problem with this moving forward the way it's written.
I'd like to weigh in support of Mr. Rathkett's comments. Again, my heart aches for people that have to deal with this, but I think it also benefits the cause for them to have to come back next year and ask for this. Because that is the awareness, and us having this discussion right now.
I would think, can we ask them, I would think they would be coming back next year anyway. Because most of the time when you do this yearly, or it is a yearly thing. We do the police officer recognitions yearly. And I don't know, but could we ask them since it's a year if they
Sure.
come in? Would you be looking to come back next September and ask us to pass the
I
same
know.
resolution?
So if that's
I can't even
required,
describe to you
yes.
how
I mean,
you
I
would do
find
it.
that kids with cancer this year and my son's remembrance this year isn't more important this year than it is next year. Mr. Scott's comments, it is completely an awareness campaign. In fact, we run a 501c3 charity that is focused on awareness and research and otherwise. We're not asking for $1 of this. We don't ask kids to fundraise for this. Your Key Club students do come to our event and volunteer at our event. It's one of the events that they log their hours for. I had contemplated saying, you know what, if you make it go gold, or if you make September Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, Aiden's Avengers would provide the gold ribbon. We have abundance of these things that, yeah, there's a cost to us, but it's part of our campaign, and we would happily do them. So I do, while I recognize there are a lot of causes out there, this costs the school district no money. You have a child in the high school now that's recovering from cancer. My older son is in the high school, and he lost his brother. My daughter's in the middle school. She lost her brother, obviously.
And he should be in second grade right now as one of the students in the school. So I think that's important to remember too. He was supposed to be a student sitting in second grade right now.
So
And that's all, it's just
if you
awareness.
amend it such that we have to come back next year, we will be here next year. We'll keep fighting and we'll do what we need to do. I'd rather not. September is National Childhood Cancer Awareness Month every September, not just 2017, as it is in the state of Pennsylvania.
So there's a motion on the table for this, right?
For this,
Is there
as it's
anyone-
written.
Is anyone
Well,
wanting to amend it?
I didn't want
I'm
to,
good with that.
It doesn't
I'm fine with
mean we can't designate September.
you can
If something came up
have,
in the future, you can also designate September as another
yeah, that we recognize it.
cause.
That's all it is. So. Roll call. All right,
So the motion
Stands.
does not include 2017.
does not.
Because
It's
the
motion.
date is amended though. It has to be amended by date. We're
Right.
adopting it the 11th, not the 25th.
No, the date of recognition, let me see.
The day the resolution
It's
is
your last
adopted is September
paragraph, Mike,
11th.
that said that
Yeah, but you can
it's
just
adopted
cross it out.
25th of
That's what I'm saying, it
September.
has to be amended
Yeah,
at
yeah,
least for that.
the 11th. Yeah, Mr. Subers probably thought we were going to hold this until,
Right.
into the voting meeting, but that's, like a couple days.
The
So,
vote should match the
Yeah,
actual
right.
resolution wording.
so as amended by the solicitor to make it effective today. Roll call.
Ms. Martino?
Yes.
Mr. Oversonio, yes. Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Rathgab?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Twardowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Bites?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you for coming out, folks. Sorry it wasn't a little easier than what you might have expected, but nothing, usually things are, we make things more complicated than they have to sometimes, so forgive us.
All the best.
Okay, the next item, personnel. Do I have a motion for, remember we had, this is amended for 8B1AB for the Coach Parks resignation. Do I have a motion for any of the items under 8?
I'll make a motion for 8A through C as amended.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rathgeb, second by Mr. Potts. Any discussion?
Fond farewell to Ms. Bukowski.
Yes, do you normally do something for a retiree like that? Many years in the district?
Exit interview.
Okay. Wow. She left. Okay. All right. Then voice vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Presentations by the public on any items? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion approved. Second.
We're adjourned.